Hello and
Hi.
welcome. Welcome to our presenter today, Britni Vauchel, and to all of you who are joining us. This webinar is part of a series of Wellness Matters talks that we do at River's Edge Counseling Center. We've been doing them for quite a few years in person, a couple of times a month at our center. And during COVID, we have moved them online to a webinar format, which we've been really enjoying. And they've been more accessible to more people, and it's created some really great connection, as well as hopefully resources that people have found helpful. My name is Nicole Imgrand, and I'm the director of River's Edge Counseling Center. We are located in St. Albert, and we have a team of over 20 psychologists and counselors who provide counseling services to children and adolescents, to families and couples and adults. Brittany is one of the students in our practicum program. We have 5 students who join us on our team each year. And Brittany is just finishing her Master of Counseling program at Athabasca. I think she's got about a month left, which is pretty
Mhm.
exciting.
Mhm.
And Brittany has a lot of history working in addictions. She's been working in addictions and mental health for 10 years as an addictions counselor for 6 of those years. And her addictions experience comes from working in treatment facilities, correctional facilities, as well as the mobile mental health team. And while at River's Edge Counseling Center until the end of August now, almost completing a year with us, she has been seeing adolescents in her practice, as well as adults who are facing all sorts of life challenges. Um, our webinar today, Brittany's presentation, it'll be about between 20 and 30 minutes. During her presentation, you'll see at the bottom that there is a chat button as well as a Q&A. I'll be keeping my eye on that. And we really encourage you to send us your thoughts, as we go along, as well as any questions that you have. And then at the end, I will read some of those questions to Brittany, and we can have a time of conversation to close our time together. So with that, I am going to hand it over to you, Brittany.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me just get set up here. Okay. All right. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Wellness Matters talk. Today I'm going to be talking about simple strategies to help maintain your recovery while in isolation. And let me say that I came up with this idea a couple months ago when I thought we would still be isolated throughout the summer. And so I've tried to adapt some of the strategies to fit with where we're at currently. But I also think that some of these strategies are just simple reminders and are good to stay with you throughout your recovery, regardless of what you're going through. So as we get started, all right. So what to expect? Number one is I wanted to review and remind you to just go back to the basics. Basics are so important when it comes to recovery. We always want to keep things simple. And it's always just good to remember what those basics are, because sometimes it's easy to forget about those. Number two is we're going to talk a bit about problems that can rise during these difficult times. And then 3, how to manage some of these potential issues. So when I started discussing some of the basics, or not even discussing, thinking of them, I thought, okay, what do I want to talk about when it comes to the basics of recovery? And the number one thing that came to mind was HALT. Very simple, but something that we tend to just forget. And that is, we want to remind ourselves, if we're having negative thoughts, if we're having a bad day, if we're struggling with cravings, I want you to just check in with yourself and remember, and think, are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you feeling lonely? Are you tired? And if it's either of those, then that means that there's simple strategies to combat those. And if you're not sure if you feel any of those, or maybe you feel all 4, then maybe you just go through the list and you figure out what's going on. You feed yourself, you come up with a snack, you maybe take a breathing moment, a break, some self-care. You phone up a friend, a family member, talk to your cat, talk to your dog, and if you're tired, have a nap. Give yourself permission to just lay down, close your eyes for a little bit. If you are struggling with cravings during these difficult times or whenever you are, I want you to remember that research shows that on average cravings should last only 7 minutes. However, when they start to last longer than 7 minutes, it's typically because we're engaging in those thoughts. So I'm thinking, okay, how can I get this? What is it going to be like? Where would I get it? What would I do? And the moment I start engaging into those thoughts and making them a little bit more real and a little bit more real, the more they start to take over. And that's when they can start lasting longer than 7 minutes. So it's really important to also in that moment that I recognize either I'm having a craving or I'm having a distressing thought or a negative thought. I want you to practice the 3Ds. So that's delay, distract, decide. And in keeping with the 3, being consistent, I ask that you delay yourself for 3 minutes. So what that means is delay yourself from acting on anything impulsive, any kind of behavior that might be impulsive. And so just delay it for 3 minutes so it's not immediate. And how you delay yourself is through distractions. So just different distraction techniques. It could be as simple as take a shower, taking a bath, making something to eat, phoning somebody, going for a walk, playing with a pet, a child, talking to somebody in your life, or just playing on your phone or watching a movie or watching TV. It could be really anything. You can even put a timer on your phone, and after those 3 minutes are up, then you can decide, what do you want to do? How are you feeling? Really check in with yourself and figure out, okay, is this something I do want to act on? Or maybe was I just acting impulsively to the thought and to the craving and to the urge? And that way that choice is also yours again, and that comes back on you. Another thing about basics is remembering that negative thinking or those thinking traps, or also known as the stinking thinking. Really being aware of how those might start creeping back in. If you've ever struggled with certain types of thinking that have turned into distressing moments for you or conflicts, or have led to using, and being aware if those are starting to creep back in. So that could look like that all or nothing thinking. Everything's black and white. It is or it isn't. As conflicts rising, thinking that you know what the other person is thinking or what they're going to say, or even during these really uncertain times, expecting that you know what the future is going to hold, and then allowing that to overtake your present moment. And just being aware that if you're starting to engage into those thoughts, really try to bring yourself back to the present moment. Again, that could be any mindfulness techniques, breathing techniques. It could be mindful eating, which is, say you go and make a sandwich, you're just really in the moment of what you're doing, telling yourself what you're doing. And you can do this with anything. It's, what are you feeling? What are you tasting? What are you smelling? What are you seeing? And what are you hearing? And then that can really just get you back into that present moment, and out of that thinking, that stinking thinking. And then of course, remember just to take it one day at a time. Slow it down, even if you have to take it 1 hour at a time. Just being able to overcome that 1 hour, that one day, those obstacles is rewarding and feels really good. And during times of uncertainty, sometimes that's just what we need to do. Sometimes when we have bad days, that's sometimes what we just need to do. And remember, I don't have this on here, but I just thought of it. Before a slip or a relapse happens, I like to call that phase the prelapse phase. So remember that slips and relapses don't happen on the day of. They typically start happening days, weeks, months even, before the relapse or slip happens. And so just being mindful of what are some of the thinking that you're engaging in right now? How are you feeling lately, and what can you do about those? Okay. So another part of the basics is just remembering what those triggers are and coping strategies. So right now, a lot of people might be experiencing loneliness, boredom, stress, conflict. And to be honest, these are also probably the biggest triggers for most people. For loneliness, it can be a really difficult time right now because we're cut off from gatherings, we're cut off from communities, we're cut off from some of our support network. And so it's, how can I reconnect? How can I be connecting right now? Boredom, when we have been stuck in our house for 2 months and maybe now we get to get outside a little bit more, it can just feel a little blah sometimes, every day, same old thing. And then stress, we're going through a lot of times of uncertainty. Some people are experiencing financial stress, some people are experiencing job loss, some people are just feeling like their freedom has been taken. And so it's one thing to just say, I'm feeling really stressed, so I need to cope with that. And it's another to say, well, maybe I am feeling stressed because of my financial situation, because coping with that is going to be very different than the stress I feel like my freedom being taken or the uncertain times. And so really breaking down where this stress is coming from will help you figure out what your plan of action and what your coping strategies are to tackle that stress. And then conflict. Some of us are, in isolation with our partners, family members. So when that happens and we're with each other 24/7, tensions can be high, conflict can ensue. And so what are some of those strategies that you can do to help you manage some of that conflict, especially if that's a trigger for you? If you've used in the past due to arguments or due to conflict in relationships, then know that that could possibly be getting triggered now. So do you need to have an open conversation with your partner, family members? Are there boundaries that need to be taken or be set? Do you need to just maybe have an agreement, to make an agreement with your partner around, when we're flooded or emotions are getting high, we just need to take a break? Is there a word that can signal that break? Or is it just saying, you know what, I'm really emotional right now, or I'm really flooded, I just need to leave? And maybe you take a few breathing moments, you breathe, do some mindfulness. Going back to the breathing, there's one strategy that I really like that's very simple, and that is the 7-11 breathing. So what that is breathing in for 7 seconds and breathing out for 11 seconds. And doing that as many times as you need until you just feel a little bit more relaxed. And then, and that works for really any coping strategy. And then, if things are really bad, maybe it's connecting with couples counseling. It's always nice to be able to talk to somebody and to have that third party there. And that's something that River's Edge can definitely help you with. And then coping strategies, I'm going to talk a little bit more about coping strategies for loneliness and boredom, but these are just some simple ones that I really think that everybody deserves to remember all the time. Recovery is hard, and whether it's been a day, a week, a month, a year, it's difficult, and there's difficult days. And the fact that you've gotten through that time period is so rewarding and so positive. And you deserve to give back to yourself. Give yourself that compassion, give yourself those rewards, and tell yourself, thank you. And by thanking yourself, give yourself self-care, engage in that self-care, making sure that you are utilizing strategies or taking care of your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and relational self. And I always like, when working with clients, to make sure that they're doing something in each of those areas. Whereas if all of my coping strategies are mental and physical, then what am I doing for my relational self? What am I doing for my spiritual self, if that's a part of my recovery? What am I doing for my emotional self? And just making sure that there's a strategy in there so it's all balanced. And then I really like to discuss with my clients and have them create what I call recovery boxes. So what that is a box that you have just placed somewhere in the house, in a closet, that you can utilize on rainy days, on days that you're stuck in the house. And it can consist of pretty much anything that you're interested in. It could be trinkets, it could be activity books, it could be coloring books, it could be crafts, movies, games, you name it, it can be in there, all different things. And so when you really just are stuck and you just don't know what to do or where to go, maybe you just take that box out, you look through it, and is there something that I can even play with? Maybe it's even squishy toys, just something for your hands. And so, and even, or a book, right? Just endless amounts of ideas. And then that way it just gives you a new refreshing idea every time you turn to it. And then again, it's really important to note and remember what has helped you in the past, because what has helped you cope in the past has shown that it's probably going to help now, right? And those are things that we always want to consistently remember. And when it comes to triggers and coping strategies, I always encourage people to write them down, keep them somewhere, because as time goes on, as things change, it's easy to forget what those triggers might be, or what those coping strategies that really worked in the past were. And so that's why I encourage you to just write them down and keep them somewhere. Okay, so these are a couple of handouts I just put on here that I really like. One is called the Coping Skills Toolbox. What it does is it talks about how coping is so many different things. It's distraction techniques, it's support, it's emotional in the sense of journaling, writing, art, you know, and then it talks about some of those self-soothing, so some of those physical things of really just helping yourself relax. And so those are some ideas, some mindfulness also. And then I really liked this one here just because I thought it was a really cute handout that just gives you ideas on 50 ways to take a break. Another coping strategy, or another handout I should say, that I really like is called 99 Coping Skills. You can Google it and the PDF will come up on your, once you Google it, and you can download that. That's a really good handout to have. It has 99 ideas of what to do for coping strategies. Some may work, some are really silly, but if anything, they might just give you a laugh. So that's something to always have in the back of your pocket. All right. So when it comes to loneliness right now, you know, like I said, we can be cut off from communities, support. So it can be a really difficult time for those in recovery. And when something has worked for so long, you kind of just stick to it, and that's what you know. And so when things change, that can also be difficult. So how can we adapt to the new environment? So it's really important to still maintain your support network. And that can be, there's many online meetings now, whether that's 12-step meetings, smart recovery meetings, groups. There's online groups out there. There's online groups through AHS. There's online groups through River's Edge. And those are things to just keep in mind. Also, if you're feeling lonely, can you schedule any Zoom or FaceTime calls with friends or family once a week, or just when you're needing it, when you need to see somebody? And then because we are starting to open back up, we're getting out of our house, we're able to see people again. Is there ways to create socially distanced get-togethers? So I know for some of my younger clients, they've really struggled with not being able to see their friends. And then of course, their school has been online. And so some of the things we've discussed was setting up study groups, socially distanced study groups. So they could still interact and see a couple of their friends, but they're also doing what they need to do, and they're still getting some of that support during that time. And then one of my favorites that I think is so important to remember for any time is the site meetup.com. So what that is, it's all about your interests, and you can log on, you check out what the interests are in your area, and you can engage in those groups with other people that have the same interests in you. So for example, I had a friend who really loved photography and was just getting into photography. So he went on to meetup.com, found a photography group because none of his other friends had engaged in photography, and he just hung out with them, and they got to learn about photography together, and it was just something really nice to do with other people who had the same interests. And so meetup.com is always a really great resource to have in the back pocket as well. And then right now, as we do open up, is there anything you can do right now and bring back into your life when it comes to support or anything that you did prior to the pandemic? And so I encourage you to think of what that might look like and what that might be. All right. So this has to deal with the boredom piece, and even complacency. You know, I'm noticing during the beginning of the pandemic, I felt really, I guess, stressed, but also excited because it was in a weird way, because of everything going on. And it was nice to be at home again and just being at home. And but now I'm starting to feel that complacency. And so, and sometimes that boredom, because the same thing every day can be really, can be a struggle. And so where boredom is such a trigger in recovery, we really want to be aware of what can we do to shake things up again. So I really encourage you to generate new motivation. And what that might look like is setting new goals. So that could be short term, that could be long term. If it's long term or even short term, I encourage you to break them down. Are there things that you could do daily to work towards those goals, weekly to work towards those goals, and really being able to visualize them. So what that means is that could be like a vision board that you have, and you're able to engage in that kind of craft. And it's exciting because it's about what you're hoping your future looks like, what you're hoping that your life looks like, or wanting to engage into. And then you can have it somewhere in your house to constantly remind yourself. And just sometimes figuring out what some of those new goals might look like. It could be leisure, it could be work, it could be travel, anything that just excites you again and something new that you want to try. And then forming a new routine can always be exciting. So maybe it's practicing mindfulness every day for 5 minutes. Maybe it's practicing yoga from home. Maybe it's practicing or engaging in some workouts from home, something that really excites you that you're able to look forward to every day. And I think that's something that's really important to note, is that I encourage you to have something in your life every day that you look forward to. And it could be as simple as making your favorite cup of coffee, or going to your favorite place to get your cup of coffee, or going and getting a donut from your favorite place. It could be really simple things that you just look forward to, so it lights that fire inside you again. And then changing up your environment. That can be adding plants. That could be so much as changing up the layout of your bedroom. You're changing your furniture. It could be decoration ideas, whatever really speaks to you, because that can give it a new feel. And that also generates that motivation and that excitement within. And then last but not least is if you're experiencing some chronic low moods or just any kind of low mood lately, or you're feeling complacent, one thing that I've really liked reading about more so these days is gratitude. And so it's something so simple, because some of those things like setting new goals, forming a new routine, changing up your environment can take action. And sometimes some people don't have that energy, and that's okay. And so something as small as a gratitude list actually has major benefits to it. Research really shows how it does improve a person's well-being and heightens those positive emotions and heightens happiness, and even improves relationships. Actually, some of the research even shows. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do if you really just are struggling with that lack of energy, that lack of motivation, is if you can, in the mornings, just write out 3 things that you're grateful for. Just experiment with yourself. Try it for a week and see how you feel afterwards. Some of the research even shows that if you write a gratitude list at night, you're more likely to have improved sleep as well. So whichever one you're feeling like you need more of, you can give it a try on each side, each time of day, and just write out 3 things you're grateful for. And that just also connects and reminds you what you're working towards. Okay, and I think that's it. So any questions or comments?
Hi, Brittany. If you want to just stop sharing your screen, that would be great. And first, I just want to say for anyone not joining us for the Q&A, thank you very much for being with us today. And I invite you to join any of the other webinars we have coming up. You can find them on our website. And also you may want to check out some of the webinars that have already happened. The recordings are on the blog page of our website. And have a good day and stay well. For those of you staying on with us, I'm curious if there were certain strategies that resonated with you, if you have found some strategies that you'd like to share with the group, kind of dovetailing off some of what Britni said, or if you have any questions, that you'd like her to just say a little bit more about, or that wasn't addressed in the presentation, I welcome you to do so. Yeah, just a reminder that your questions just come to Britni and I. Are you finding, Britni, your clients are struggling, particularly right now due to the situation? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've definitely had a couple clients who are sliding in and out of their recovery just due to conflicts they're experiencing with their partners, due to some of the uncertainty that they're going through, and just experiencing a lot more of those low moods. And so we've been working on strategies to help keep them moving and keep them motivated. And
I'm thinking also, a lot of my clients are noticing, and myself too, just some unknown resilience that has kind of shone through in this time too, and skill building. So I'm just imagining that, we face times of isolation for all kinds of reasons in life. And I'm hopeful one of the silver linings of this time is that people are building some skills that will make those moments in time a little bit easier too.
And that reminds me too, is that, tapping back into those strengths and that resiliency that has gotten them this far, or gone through obstacles in the past. How can we tap into those through these times of uncertainty? Because we know they're there. How do we just tap back into them and recognize, no, I do have the ability to get through this?
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, I'm not seeing any questions or anything in the chat. It's a bit quiet, which is okay. I'll keep an eye on it for a minute here, but as we're waiting to see if anyone has any questions, I will let you know that you're welcome to send your questions to us anytime. You can send them to my email, nicole@riversedgecounseling.com, or through our website, and I will definitely forward any questions you have to Britni. If you have any other ideas about how, for webinars or ways we can support you through this time, I'd also be curious about that, or any feedback about the webinar today. We just really enjoy hearing from people. I don't see any questions, so we will post the webinar on the blog. I usually get to that within a couple of days, and if it's okay, Britni will post your presentation as well, and it will be also on Britni's page on the website. And absolutely reach out if you have any questions, or we can assist you in any other way. And otherwise, I wish you well today and stay healthy. Thank you very much, Britni.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Take care.
Thank you.